Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar with our guest speaker, Chris Larsen. My name is Wali Rahman. I'm the Diversity and Wellbeing Manager at the Forestry Commission. So our webinar this afternoon is called Developing Resilience and a Winning Mindset. And before I hand over to Chris and we start, I'd just like to run through a few housekeeping rules. So first of all, there are closed captions for anyone who needs it within the chat, and you can find the options in the Teams app of your browser. Please also note that we will be recording the session and uploading it to our YouTube channel later on. Please feel free, however, to keep your cameras on and make sure that you are on mute. I'll now introduce our guest speaker, Chris Larsen. So Chris, we're very lucky to have him with us because he has a hectic schedule, as we were just discussing before we started the meeting. So he's an extraordinary entrepreneur and motivational speaker. He's the founder of the renowned performance coaching and leadership business, which is called Leap 76. And more recently, I Am, which is a company name. Chris supports many charities and communities and has recently become an ambassador for mental health charity platform, a charity platform for life. Chris started from nothing, leaving school without any GCSEs and started selling double glazing door to door. One day, while dropping a friend off at an interview at Toyota, a conversation with staff led to him taking the place of an absent interviewee for an assessment. This then led to him being offered a job which opened him up to the world of engineering. So throughout Chris's engineering career, he developed his leadership skills and ended up managing thousands of people in companies such as Cummins and Jaguar Land Rover. During this time, Chris supported a team to design a brand new operating system for a £1 billion manufacturing facility. Chris went on to gain an MBA, and after advancing through many corporate roles, achieving wealth and success, he launched his own company, Leap 76. Chris has designed and delivered an ILM accredited leadership course, which has been successfully delivered to thousands of individuals and counting. Just to mention a couple of things also before we begin about Chris. So please do connect with Chris on LinkedIn. So it's Chris Larsen on LinkedIn, and on Instagram it goes by Chris Larsen 76. So it'd be really good if you're not tweeting, but if you're doing any social media posts about this event, then do tag him into those posts. Just mentioning again, please, if anyone's got their speakers on or the mics, please mute them because I'm getting some feedback. But other than that, I will now hand over to Chris without any further ado. So Chris will speak for about 40 minutes and then take questions. So please put your questions to Chris in the chat, or feel free at the end to speak out. We'll give people the opportunity to do whatever works best. So Chris, over to you.
Hey guys. So Wally, thanks for that. I think it's worth, just before I get going, elaborating on a little bit about my journey from the beginning and a little bit about myself. So like Wally said in the bio there, I absolutely come from really humble beginnings. If I'm being brutally honest, I probably grew up quite poor. My mum was a single parent, had to do a lot just to keep us sort of in clothes and school uniform and stuff. And I remember the reason why I tell you this is because my passion for what I actually do now and what I've become now, like it has sort of stemmed from that period in my life. So seeing people really going through the struggle and developing a mindset that no matter what, they have to go and achieve whatever they've set out to achieve. I witnessed firsthand with my mum, and literally I often think back to that moment, because throughout the course of my career, I've done a lot of the, the same things as a result of some of that sort of conditioning that I got when I was younger. But yeah, if I just fast forward a little bit to today, so some people, it's likely that you've never heard of me. And I'll be honest, I designed it that way. For the last 8 years, I've been the leader of an organization that I've been growing almost stealthily, because our success is all about other people's success, and we don't want to be at the front of anyone else's success. So in 8 years, if I just explain a little bit about what Leap 76 does before I get into how and why. Leap 76 does 3 things, and all of them are focused around people. So the first thing that we did is, because we had lots of experience, and I had lots of experience in developing operating systems, manufacturing models, working at places like Toyota, they really are best practice, right? So working at organizations like that gave me a lot of experience and interest in going and seeing transformation in business. And literally, we spent the first couple of years sort of going into some huge organizations. That was never the plan, actually. We had a few moments in our journey where we thought to ourselves, oh no, like Google have got in touch, or TikTok have got in touch. They want us to do something. Like, what? We're just like a little business from Chester. Like, should we be doing that? But we've been able to support over 200 businesses since our sort of creation 8 years ago. And, that's something that we were immensely proud of, and we always started to do, we set out to do that. I used to get asked a really common question, which led me on to the second offering that the business does. And I used to get asked a really common question every single time I spoke, or every single time I did a course, or whatever that was. People always used to say to me, what is the most common problem that you find in business? So all of these businesses that you're going in and supporting, what is the most common thing that you're seeing as a result of their errors or problems? And for a really, really long time, I actually couldn't answer that question. And then I remember one day I was sat there with my team and I said, I know the answer to that question, and it's leadership. So businesses were being, winning or losing, or, being determined in their success by how well they were led, and who the leaders were in the positions that was fostering the characters and the traits that were maybe not conducive to a high performing environment. And that was the day that the leadership course was born. And the really interesting thing about the leadership course is, I know Wally said that we've put 15,000 people have been through our leadership course in the last 2 years. It's a phenomenal number of people. But when I really think about that leadership program, again, a little bit like everything we stand for, we dare to be a little bit different. I just remember back to my time thinking to myself, well, I was really switched off and bored when I was at university. Maybe because I'm not academic, but maybe because it just wasn't engaging. And I said, maybe if we're going to start a leadership course, we should do it a little bit different. So why not be completely unconventional and come up with a load of really cool, fun activities and still develop leadership? Again, I didn't know that it was going to have the success that it did. But, we're now proud to say that we run the #1 leadership course in the country. And, even right now, as I sit here, outside in our office now, there's another 20, a cohort of 20 people, just like there is every 2 days. So that was something that we were really proud of as well. And that's how we sort of fell into that space. The other thing, which is the thing that I really want to speak about today, is the thing that I'm totally passionate about, is about mindset and mental fitness. I'm going to come on to why I call it mental fitness in a second, because when we talk about building resilience, I want to make sure that we're all aligned with what is like the appropriate language to use. Not because it's PC or not PC, but because self-talk's really important, and actually language can determine how we see a situation. But I've been looking after the human performance, or the mindset performance of a lot of people for the last 5 or 6 years in lots of different industries, from high performing athletes, whether they are fighting for world titles. I was just explaining to Wally last week, I was at the Anthony Joshua fight, and 5 of the fighters on that night I look after with regards to mindset performance. So it was a busy day for me. But I also work a lot with Premier League footballers and various different athletes, and actually performers as well. So I do a lot of work with people who are in the music industry who suffer with like stage fright and stuff. Even though you don't see that and we don't see that outwardly, inwardly they're really struggling, and they have to really go through a process in order for them to be able to walk out. However, in that space, the thing that people remember me by probably, or I'm synonymous with, is the athletes, because of the connection, because they know who they are. But the bit that I'm really passionate about really is I also support sort of 1,200 schools in the UK, the next generation. And it's something that I'm really passionate about, not just because I'm a parent myself, but actually I've got a saying that says you've got to care about a world that you're not going to be part of. And if you're going to care about a world that you're not going to be part of, then where does that start? For me, that really starts in a place where we start to look at the future, and we start to look at the people who are going to shape the future, who are going to be heavily involved in making serious decisions in the future. And, choices that they make now could determine who they become in the future. So working with schools and people who are overcoming addiction or people who are overcoming trauma is something that I also do in the mindset performance. And it's something that I'm incredibly passionate about. And one of the reasons why I am literally chocker is because there is a lot of people in this world, and we tend to get a lot of activity in that space where we go and try and support as many people as possible. And one of our values as an organization is to make sure that we are helping as many people as possible, supporting as many people as possible, and making sure that sometimes, we're in a dark room and we're in a really dark place. And what's really important in that moment is that there's a light in a dark room. And when I was growing up, I won't go into a lot of detail, but I was in some really dark rooms, and I just needed a light in that dark room, and actually it didn't come. And I say to everybody in my team, every meeting, that we've chose to attempt to be the light in people's dark room. And it's like, it's something that you've almost got to take an oath to say, look, we have to be there to service people and their needs. So a lot of people ask me, why do I use the term mental fitness as opposed to mindset or mental health? And I just want to talk about that, because when we talk about developing resilience and we talk about developing any other character traits that are really important to where we want to be in our life, a lot of the time we view mental health as an issue. Would that be fair to say? A lot of people view mental health as a problem. It's maybe the horse has bolted. I seen some really interesting statistics not so long ago about the level of people who are self-diagnosed with mental health. So they haven't actually been in seek support or any help in that space, but actually just because of their behaviors that they're currently exhibiting and access to things like internet and all that kind of stuff, it's really easy for you to turn around and go, actually, that's describing me. And if that's describing me, I must be depressed or I must have anxiety. And we will see that movement now more as well with things like, trying to identify diagnosis in things like autism, ADHD. I've got a daughter who's 5 years old, and the school are obsessed with trying to find her a diagnosis. And they're telling me that I can go online and do an assessment. And I'm like, well, I don't know if that's the way I want to do it, but it's because we're constantly looking, and it's because the access is there. It's easily accessible for us to do so. Mental fitness was born for me as a result of saying to people, look, what do you do to work on your mindset? And because people couldn't compute what mindset means, so when we say to people, oh, we need to develop resilience, we need to develop tenacity, we need to have a winning mindset, what does that even look like? How would you go away and do that? And sometimes it just starts with the language that we're using. Because if I was to talk about physical fitness right now, I don't say about physical health. I talk about physical fitness. So what we talk about is, there's almost 200 people listening right now. And of that 200 people, it's highly likely that, at least 50% of them at some point this week have probably been the gym or go to the gym for whatever reason. We proactively work on our physical fitness. But when we need to be resilient, or when we need to be tenacious, or we need to demonstrate a character trait, we normally don't have the opportunity to build muscle. The thing that makes us know whether we've got it or we haven't is in the situation. So we have to learn on the job. So, that might be a death in the family. That might be a really traumatic time in your life. It might be the loss of a job, a breakup of a relationship, whatever it is. And that's where character is formed. So people tend to think that you have to go through all of these things in order for you to identify whether it's something that you have or you don't. And actually, I remember doing a talk at Manchester City last year. And I remember when I first started to say that I'm going to almost ban the words mental health, not because I don't think it exists. It absolutely does, but it's not what I do. I want to be in a world where people, the same as they would get up in the morning and go to a gym of your choosing, could get up and go to somewhere and understand and know how and have PTs and have all of the support and knowledge to be able to go and develop themselves in mental fitness, so that we are prepared for our response when crisis happens, no doubt, or we really need something from within. Now, a lot of people often say to me, like, what is the key ingredient of mental fitness and high levels of mental fitness? And it boils down to really one thing. And the one word that I find myself talking about every single time I have an interaction with somebody is confidence. And people always say to me, yeah, but, not everybody is confident, and you can't always be confident. And it's something that if I had a magic wand and I could change something in this world, one of the things that I would want to change is I would want to make sure that everybody felt like $1 million every day. Everybody felt like King Kong. Everybody felt like they could achieve anything, because the world would become a different place. Unfortunately, we live in a society at the moment where a lot of the times our candles are blown out and people are removing our confidence and damaging our confidence regularly. But I often say to people as well that we do a great job of damaging our own confidence. And I'm going to come on to that in a little second. But I'm just going to start off with something that happened when we talk about confidence, because we didn't plan the world to be like this. So I want you to imagine your children, if you've got them, or your brothers or sisters, or you as a child. And when you went home one day and you took a picture that you drew in school as a 5-year-old child, and it was of a pig, and it was a really bad drawing, by the way. And we had to write on it as the parent that it was a pig so that we could remember that it was a pig, because otherwise, we may forget. But where did that picture end up? Well, it ended up on the fridge. And the reason why it ended up in the fridge is because our parents or the people who were around us wanted to grow our confidence. They wanted to celebrate what we'd achieved, even though actually it wasn't. I must reiterate, it wasn't good. It was not a good drawing, but they still celebrated the effort. They understood that, it wasn't easy to produce that, and that was the best thing that you could achieve. And I'm so appreciative that that's what you give is 100% of you. And I'm going to celebrate that effort. And I'm going to put this as a trophy on the fridge. And every single time you come in the kitchen and you go into that fridge and you get biscuits or you get a yogurt or you get a drink, I want you to see that I celebrate you. I'm a fan of yours. And that grows the child. That grows us as kids. But then something happened, and I don't really know what that was. But then as we move into adult life, I want you to fast forward to now and think inwardly for a second. If you was to see a picture on Instagram today of somebody who had just bought a really nice car or just gone on a really nice holiday or had a really good body. The problem that we've got is the second we see someone's success nowadays, we tend to not put their pigs on fridges. We tend to take them off. So what we tend to do is our reaction can be, well, I'm not going to celebrate that success. And actually, I'm going to try and justify how they can't have got that fairly. You know, we hear things like quite regularly where we hear people go, oh, someone's got a really good body. Oh, yeah, but it's easy. It's easy if I haven't got a full-time job and, you know, someone's looking after you. It's easy to do that. Oh, yeah. What about someone who's got a nice car? Yeah, it's easy if you get things on credit or it's on loan or you take money off your parents or whatever. This is what we do. So we're constantly taking people's pigs off fridges. You know, we can't accept that we want to celebrate the success or the achievement of people. And what that means is, what does that actually translate to? How does that manifest itself in how we feel? Well, where that manifests itself is because what happens then is we're actually really fearful of even putting ourselves out there because we're fearful of judgment. So actually our confidence reduces and diminishes even before anyone's took that away. And it's something that's really important to me because 99% of my clients who come to me with a problem and say, Chris, I'm really trying to overcome the cost of living crisis is really getting to me. I feel really down. I need to respond to this really well. I've got a family to look after. I feel like I'm just being really ignorant towards this fact at the minute. I'm avoiding the problem. Work's not paying me well enough. I can't get out of it. I'm stuck in a hole. Can you help me? And then they want to understand why I'm talking about pigs on fridges, and they try and understand, yeah, I don't, Chris, I get all that, but why are we talking about pigs on fridges when I'm talking about the cost of heating? And I say, because everything that we're doing in life is all about confidence. You've got to be confident and you've got to build yourself up and invest time in yourself so that you are confident that you can overcome situations. You're confident that you look good. You're confident that you are good. And all of this is an act. And the beautiful thing about this is it's an inside job. So actually, the person who owns your confidence is you. The problem that we have is society nowadays, because of the things like social media, we outsource the validation to other people. We stop marking our own homework when it comes down to, am I a good person? Am I good at my job? Do I do the right things? Do I make the right decisions? And we let other people decide that instead of us being able to turn around and say, no, I do a great job. Now, something that I know in every single person on this call, it's really difficult for me to do this virtually, but if I was to do a social experiment, just think to yourself right now, and anyone who believes that they really know it, I want you to write it in the chat. It'd be really good. But what's your superpower? So one of the things that I talk to people about is, do you know what your superpower is? And people go, well, no, not really. This could be 30-year-old people, 40-year-old people, 50-year-old, and we don't know what the superpower is. Your superpower can't be overthinking. That might be, that's more of a kryptonite, that. But sometimes superpower and knowing your superpower can be the foundations for creating a winning mindset. You've got to know who you are and what you're great at. If you don't know what your superpower is, then one of the first things that I would say to you right now, when you go home tonight, sit down and understand and figure out what that is, because your life becomes different, because you've got to unapologetically own your own superpower, unapologetically, right? Did Superman, ever hide the fact that he can fly and he's got a superpower? Well, for a start, he wears a cape. Okay, so when he's Superman, he's got a cape on, he's got a suit, he's got leggings on. No one ever wants to see me in leggings and undies and a cape, but he does that. Do you know why? Because he's unapologetically Superman. I can fly. What can you do? You know, this is my superpower. So they do things on purpose. And one of the things that I find myself saying to people frequently is, did you put your suit on this morning? Because if you don't know what your superpower is, then actually we can just sometimes just exist, and it can lead to something that is really, really important, which is basically self-talk. So a lot of doubt comes as a result of us, of the way we talk to ourselves. And sometimes we can really bully ourselves. There can be a lot of self-sabotage. We stop seeing things. We stop seeing positive things. And there's three states of mind, right? So you can we've all come across people who view things really positively, and we've all come across people who view things really negatively. And then you've got this third dimension, which is people who are just numb. And the people who are just numb are the ones who don't really see either. But actually, that's really dangerous. And like, that's really sad, because we need people to be super confident. We need people to be really positive. And that is an inside job. Yeah. Love that about the spelling. that's my kind of humor, that. But it literally is so funny to hear people talk about their superpower. It's so funny. I did a talk. It was this year, I think, Wally, right? Yeah. At the Royal Lancaster, I did a talk, and I asked, a few thousand people in the room, and I asked them, what's your superpower? Put your hand up as a social experiment if you know what your superpower is. Now, ironically, I don't want to take anything away from anyone who's writing in the chat, but if I get you to stand up in front of 3,000 people and explain what your superpower is, maybe so many people don't stand up. So socially, we feel like we have to hide away from our superpower. We feel like we have to hide away, the fact that we should have put our suit on this morning and we should have turned up, and that's who we are. We're great at this, and this is what we're going to do every single day. But it's all about understanding that the importance of the inside job, which is building your confidence and understanding self-talk. Self-talk is so critical. So I'm going to give you guys a few techniques at the moment. And I'll tell you this much, right? If you do this for a week, I can tell you now, the first day you do this, you will feel like an idiot. Yeah. At the end of the week, after you do this, every single time you reread this, you will feel like King Kong. And that's what it's about, right? So you need to persevere with some of these techniques. The first one I'm going to talk about, which is where the inside job starts of building confidence, is what I call the I Am project. Okay. So what I do to my clients and what I do to myself is, when I go to bed at night, I have a little pad at the side of the bed and a pen, and I write down a minimum of 3 things. And I write, I am caring, I am kind, I am strong, I am compassionate. And then I close the book and I put it away. Next day, do the same. On one of them days when I'm feeling down and I'm feeling like I'm dealing with something that I'm not prepared for, or I wasn't ready to deal with, or it come at a bad time, or I'm starting to doubt myself, the first thing I do is reach down the side of my bed and I get the book out and I start to read the things that I am. I am them things. And what happens is this amazing things happen, because you are what you believe you are. So if you tell yourself you're great, you will be great. So if you believe you can or you can't, you're right, is a famous saying. But actually, I couldn't believe in that more. So I see professional athletes doubt themselves, and I get them to do something that I call the I Am project. Okay. And then all I do is I get them to reread that. And at first, you do really feel like a bit of an idiot. When you're writing it down, you're like, what do I put? I am good. I am kind. I am. And we think of really trivial, laid back things. But actually, when you really get into it, is it wrong for you to be able to say, I am pretty, I am handsome, I am a great person, I am kind, I am a great father, I am a great wife, I am a great husband, I'm a great mom. This is unapologetically owning what you are. And this isn't about like affirmations that this is what I did or this is what I'm going to do. This is about you. This is you building yourself brick by brick and looking in the mirror and seeing what you should be seeing. And sometimes we have to read it. I'm sure all of you have seen the image that is like a lion looking in a mirror and it sees a kitten. And the lion looking in the mirror sees a kitten, and we're thinking, wow, like that's the king of the jungle, and they feel like a kitten. Now, what would the behavior of a lion be if they felt like a kitten? Well, there's no point in the lion running away from the buffaloes or the deers because things get a little bit tasty. The lions rule the jungle. If anything, they need to develop their young so that the kittens look in the mirror and they see lions. And then what does that mean? Well, then you end up with, these really, brave small lions trying to, punch way above their weight because they've been bred into a belief that they can be whatever they want to be. And you need to think about that in terms of yourself. So understanding self-talk and understanding how you can help build yourself when it comes to confidence and resilience and, you can just reread your own writing and you can reread your own feelings and you can look back at that and go, do you know what? I am them things. So whatever this is that's facing me right now, I am equipped. I am ready. And I think it's really important that we understand that as a technique is something that anybody can do. And I really love the simplicity of that. And if anyone's got kids on here, no matter how young your kids are, do that. I promise you, do that and make them do that. You don't ever have to read what they write, but make them do that. And it's amazing what happens because sometimes we forget to see the positive things. And one of the reasons why people would say there's an absence of character or resilience is because really the person isn't the full version of themselves because they don't see themselves. They're seeing the kitten. They're not seeing the lion. So it's really important that we do that. Another technique that I like people to really, really think about is to list down achievements that they do. So I have a saying that says, you've got to be high-fiving yourself 3 times a day. And some people go, wow, that's tough. But, if I was in any of them rooms that you're in now, and I said, right, tell me 3 things that you've achieved today, I bet you over 80% of the people, if not more, would really struggle to name any. It may be one. And then what we do is we go, well, we're sort of claiming assists here because I'm going to have an achievement as I took my daughter to school, but that meant I was a little bit late for it. And we start to see things that aren't even achievements, and we start to try and go, actually, have I done anything today? But just imagine a world of a series of days that look like that, where we're unable to see what we achieved on any day. Imagine what that's like for a week. So we haven't been able to spot an achievement in a week. Now what? Well, actually, I don't know what happened this week then. I've just existed. I haven't really achieved anything. I'm alive and I've existed and I've done everything that I think I should have done. And then imagine what that looks like after 2 weeks and 3 weeks and 4 weeks. So my theory is, in that little booklet that I told you about where you write, I am, one of the other things that I get people to do is set themselves 3 goals that can start off being really achievable goals, but you hold yourself accountable to achieve them goals. They might be getting up in the morning and going for a walk. They might be getting up and going to the gym. They may be taking your kids to school. They may be playing an instrument. They may be cooking a dinner or eating healthy food or spending time with family or whatever they are, and hold yourself accountable to deliver them goals to yourself. And the reason why I say this, and a lot of people always want to fix the outputs. So like, oh, how can I feel better in my life because my partner's just left me and I feel really down. I need to rebuild myself. I say, but do you really need to rebuild yourself? It just means that we've stopped seeing the great things that we've done. And sometimes documenting these things can be really helpful as well. So there are a couple of things that I highly recommend for anybody to do with themselves, but also with like the next generation. If you've got brothers, sisters, kids, no matter how young. My 5-year-old has got a speech delay. She's got some complex needs. I still sit down with my 5-year-old daughter who can't even articulate any of these words, yeah, and I write them down, and I tell her that she's them things, and I write them down, and then one day I'm going to give her that book, and I'm going to say, like, these are the things that we described, these are the words that we use to describe you. And I think it's really important sometimes that we're able to take stock on, like, who we are and what we've achieved and what we've become, and owning our own superpower, because there's a lot of people out there who will try and damage and take away and remove your pigs off fridges and blow your candle out, and they'll try and do a lot of that, and that's happening everywhere, right? Whether that's in work. Unfortunately, society has led us to that place where it's common ground now for us to feel really insecure and be really cautious about how we act and how we respond because of fear of judgment. But the one thing that I'm going to say to everybody on here is that fear that you may have because of your fear of being judged, if you are also that same person that sees that person on a nice holiday and a nice car who justifies, the fact that that can't be real, or, they must have had a leg up somewhere because, it was easier for them, or they blame circumstances as to why they can't achieve that, then you're also part of the problem. And that's why I'm saying that it has to be a total movement, and the total movement has to start from within. We've got to start celebrating people's successes. And when we start celebrating our own successes and we start to recognize that who we are and what we've become, and unapologetically, I know I say that word a lot, I really genuinely mean unapologetically own your superpower. Hypothetically, get up every single morning and put your suit on. People who were superheroes, you're right, not all superheroes wear capes. I know someone put that, but not all of the superheroes that we know, yeah? Every single one of them wanted you to know that they had a superpower, and they wore a suit that made them stand out. Now, I get it. We're not all going to get up in the morning. Well, you can if you want. I don't know what the dress code is there, but not all, we can't get up in the morning and go into a phone box and put a cape on and put a pair of leggings on and whatnot. But actually, hypothetically, you've got to understand that you've got to get up as the best version of you. And whatever routine you go through in the morning to make that happen is so important to how you're going to feel and how you're going to conduct yourself that day. We have to do things on purpose. They wanted to stand out. Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, Superwoman, whoever you want to talk about, they wanted you to know they were different, they were special, they were great at something. You've got to walk this earth with that in your mind. And building a winning mindset is about understanding and seeing yourself as the person that you are, and being proud of what you've become, and owning what you've done, and puffing your chest out, and making sure that you absolutely own who you are and what you've achieved. And that is an inside job. It's so perfect. If someone said to me, Chris, you will be the best version of yourself, and guess what? Nobody else on this planet can affect that other than you. You've got total control. Surely that's dreamland, right? So if that's all on me, like a lot of things are, they are an inside job. Health can be, outside of real serious health concerns, a lots of things that are real health concerns actually can be reversed through lifestyle. Like, I just was fortunate enough to attend something not so long ago with one of the leading physicians in America, and they were talking about how my mum's got 2 forms of cancer. I was really intrigued by it, but people have made real headway in cancer, diabetes, all of these things just through lifestyle changes. And it's amazing to realize that actually that's something that we can be in control of. So one of the final things that I just want to say is, if you think about where you are in your life right now, one of the other things that can really help you understand how you see this world and what your paradigm is where you are in your life right now and who you are and how you see yourself is one of two things. It is either circumstance, yeah, or it's choice. If I think to myself, well, I'm carrying a little bit of weight at the moment, that's because I work a long job. You know, I'm traveling all over the world. I've got, you know, lots of stress. I've got a young family. I've got stuff going on. That's me being a victim and throwing all of the things that are within my sphere of influence out. So I'm going to try and blame circumstance, because we feel loads better when we're able to look at something and go, yeah, this has happened to me. You know, I didn't do it. As soon as we change all of them things and flip them over to choice, it's liberating, it's empowering, it's beautiful, actually, because all of a sudden we turn around and go, well, I'm overweight because I've ate too much food. I'm not moved enough. Yeah. So I can move more and I can eat better food. That's on me. So I can get up earlier and prepare my food. I can get up and go for a walk. You know, I can do these things. And even if sometimes they seem really difficult, having your difference between developing something that's circumstance versus, you know, and being in a situation because of circumstance versus something that was your choice is so powerful. And it's something that I recommend for every single person to do. And just before I finish, just remember, we've given ourselves a few pieces of homework here, or I hope so, is start to write out, get that book, put that book somewhere and have that book next to your bed and just you look at it. And every single night when you go to bed, just write down a minimum of 3 things. And on the day that you're feeling rubbish and on the day that you're feeling crap, the first thing that you want to do before you open up and you reach out to anybody, before you do anything, just reread that book, because that's describing you. And then when you look at that, does that describe a person that can't deal with this? And, you know, 90% of the time, it doesn't. So, guys, like, thank you so much. I could speak to you for about 3 hours about all sorts of different things, pigs on fridges. Just a couple of things from me. I know that Wally said earlier on about, you know, if you were going to tag me in it, the reason why I want you to tag me in anything that you put about this chat or about anything is I'm really trying to pioneer a movement here. I'm trying to chase something for a long time for a lot of people. And I need to get that message out there, and I need people to be followers. I need people to buy in. I need people to want to be part of this change as well. So I really want people to tag me. And if we're going to start talking about pigs on fridges, and we're going to start talking about growing people, and I want people to see that this is normal. This is normal. This is normal place. This isn't a world where people just judge you and people are terrible. I've got this theory that people are great. If you allow them to be great, let them be great. And I'm going to trust that everyone's great. So the reason why I want you to tag me, I want people to see that there are other people and they're not alone. And lots of people are trying to put people's pigs on fridges, and that becomes normal, and so on and so forth. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris. That was absolutely fantastic and inspiring as always. So it's I think the 3rd time I've heard you speak, and you never disappoint. So thank you for that. I think we've got 1 or 2 questions coming in.
Yeah.
So I just want to remind anyone else, if you haven't put a question in, you still got a chance to do that, or raise your hand and we'll come to you. First question we've got here is, Caitlin says, thank you, Chris, for your wisdom. How would you navigate this while being a procrastinator or struggling being consistent with the habit?
Yeah, I think this is something that's really common as well, is like we sometimes put things off, and we sometimes talk ourselves out of things. And it's about understanding the importance and the value in positive self-talk. So, you know, if you set yourself goals and you have something that you want to achieve, you've got to think to yourself that if you continue to believe that this is going to be a problem, or you try and think about every single eventuality that's going to happen, and this is what we do, right? We go through these what if scenarios, and we talk ourselves out of things. One of the things that I often tell people to do is, and I know it sounds really like Janet and John this, but like if you can't explain your problem simply, you don't understand it yourself. And that isn't me being in any way derogatory or negative, but I think what I'm trying to get you to understand is, if you can write something down and you can articulate the reasons why you shouldn't do something, or the reasons why you can't start today, the reason why you couldn't do that today, if you can write them down and then look at them, and then if you're going to write it down as a problem, in the next column, you've got to write a solution. How are you going to overcome that? What typically happens is people can't even write the problem because it's just a mindset. It's just the way you're feeling. And what I say to people is, when you build confidence and you start to achieve things, that's why you should high five yourself 3 times in a day. You start to believe that you can achieve anything. The goals become bigger. And I'll tell you a really short story about a guy who I was working with who was overcoming alcohol addiction. He'd gone through the 12 steps. He'd done loads of stuff. He relapsed. Instead of going back through the 12 steps because he felt really embarrassed to go back to the meeting, his family sort of seeked me out and said, look, can you just have a conversation? And I said, yeah. And I said, okay, I went and had a conversation. I said, right, okay, we are going to start with a strategy and we're going to hold ourselves accountable to the strategy. I said, right. And it's going to start today. His first words to me were, well, it's Friday, right? So why don't we start it on Monday? I was like, okay, but why? It's the weekend. Why? Does any diet start on a weekend? Is that the dumb thing? And I remember I said, if you can write down a real reason why we should start this, not now, I'll listen to it. And I left him for nearly 2 hours to write down a reason why we can't start so that we could come up with a strategy to mitigate against that. And he couldn't. And that's why I always think it's really important that you have to learn to articulate your problems and your reasons why, knowing that you're going to be a problem solver and not a problem finder. You have to find solutions to problems and not problems to solutions. You have to do that. And it all starts as soon as you get the first few wins under your belt, the rest becomes easy. You will just push yourself further. That same guy, by the way, has now not had a drink for two years, just over 2 years, is now helping and supporting a place called Aqua House, which is in the north of England, where they support people who are trying to overcome addiction. He does talks in all sorts of communities where people have got addiction to drug and alcohol in teenagers, and he's doing an amazing thing with that. And, that's something else that keeps him alive as well. So that all just started with us just saying, why not? And the goals that I was setting him, do you know how long they were? An hour. He was able to high five himself 10 times in a day, as many hours as he was awake, because we were just going to get through the next hour. That's all we're going to do. And I used to put in my diary for him and his diary, have fun. He used to say, what's that? I say, we're going to put in there on that hour, me and you are going to have fun. What does that even look like? And people forget how to go and have fun.
Brilliant. Thanks, Chris. Manuel's got his hand up. I'm not sure. Are you able to unmute yourself? Yeah.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. Hi. Thanks for this, Chris, and thanks for the invite. Chris, really good nuggets shared about positive mindset, positive thought. But the elephant in the room is around imposter syndrome, where some of us feel that we don't suffer it, but actually we do. We do come across it in different stages in our careers. And I know you've worked with some like professionals out there. If I said to you 30 seconds, give me a golden nugget to take away to think about how to sort of like cope with imposter syndrome, what would you say?
Yeah. The first thing I'd say is imposter syndrome a thing? That's one of the first things I would actually say. Is imposter syndrome a thing? So I would say this. Imposter syndrome is your view or your perspective on whether you belong in a situation or a team or a circumstance, a situation. It's nobody else. Now, in life, we get told to use data. We get told to use data because data doesn't lie. It's factual. Okay. So I always say to people about imposter syndrome, we're just marking our own homework. It's our thoughts about what everyone else is thinking. But why don't we ask for feedback? So one of the things I ask people who say to me, I've got imposter syndrome, is I get them to ask for feedback. So even in the corporate world, I've got people who are in meetings who are brand new into that organization. And I've said to them, I want you to ask every single person in that room today for some feedback. And the way I want you to articulate it is, tell me something that I'm really good at that I bring to this team, and then tell me something that you think I should work on. And that ability to be able to stand up and do that is really, it's really challenging for people to be able to, you know, actually articulate if imposter syndrome is like something that has been told to you or is just an inside job of self-talk. And that's why I keep talking about the importance of self-talk. Imposter syndrome, guilt is another one. Guilt is our view, our thoughts of what someone else is thinking. It's 2 degrees of separation away from facts, but we're a world that lives on data and facts. If I was solving a manufacturing problem for somebody, I'm looking at data. I want to know the data. If we're trying to solve COVID, or we're trying to mitigate against COVID being as dangerous as it is we have to use data. So why aren't we using data with imposter syndrome? Why don't we ask? And then if them people in that room turn around and say, okay, Manuel, I actually believe that you have got really low self-confidence, and I think that you're someone who doesn't really apply yourself, and you know, sometimes you don't get things finished and you don't get things done, then what we're actually talking about now is just a healthy team environment where feedback is a gift, because you can go and do something about that. Do you see why I say it? I don't know if imposter syndrome, I don't use the term because I'm not saying people don't feel it, but my view on it is it's my version of what I think people are thinking, which I don't think that should affect me too much.
That answers it, and very powerful as well. So good stuff, and keep up the great work. Wally, back to you, mate.
Thanks,
Thank you.
And thanks, Chris. Just to follow up from that question, I've got one myself, is staying with the theme. So is there a level of, I know you don't like the term imposter syndrome, but a level of that which is necessary so that we're not overestimating ourselves? So what do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a fine balance, isn't there, between owning your own superpower and knowing what you're great at, and then maybe, you know, potentially over committing and under delivering, and maybe creating a bit of a healthy tension, or unhealthy tension. One of my responses to that would be, when I talk about superpower or anything, one of the greatest traits that anybody can have in life is self-awareness. And it's really always about picking your battles. So, you know, if there's something that you're really great at, and there's a particular topic that comes up in family, work, or life, and you can really add value and you can really contribute to that, and you're really passionate about that, then you should pipe up. You should be all of them things. Passionate, you should add value, you should communicate them things. But I think some of the problems that people have is they don't pick their battles. So then when something comes up that I'm not actually great at, and I know I'm not really great at, i.e. technology, I run a company, but there's no point in me saying to everyone in my company that they're setting up the technology incorrectly, because if truth be told, I don't know how, you know. But if I'm this real passionate guy who's like always seems to be having answers in the things that I know, and I answer a lot of questions, I have to really pick my battles. So I think the thing is with imposter syndrome is, it's not about can you over-egg the thing where you bring value, because I don't think that's possible. That's just healthy. But pick your battles. That you don't have to be the smartest person in the room every time. And if you are the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room if you're always the smartest person in the room. So I think that, like, it's knowing to pick your battles, because otherwise the perception of you would be somebody who's maybe controversial or opinionated, and then that can have its own negative effects. But I don't think you should ever dim your own light on something that you add a lot of value in that space. And I think passion is a great trait to have when you're talking about something that you really believe in.
Brilliant. Thanks, Chris. I'm just seeing if there are any other questions.
I can't see the chats anymore.
Another question in the meantime. So we spoke on the phone the other day about principles, and no matter what's going on around you. So obviously at the moment we've got a lot of things going on in the workplace, in our home lives, in the wider society, in the world, on the news. So what is something that you can say that kind of helps us to navigate all of that, as we talked about underlying principles, that no matter what the situation is, that we can kind of try and look after our own well-being?
I think two things, because there's one thing which is always sort of is conducive to what I've been saying about confidence and believing in yourself. And when you believe in yourself, you know, you tend to feel good. When you feel good, you be good, you react differently, you respond differently. The other thing is that I think is really important is the importance of sort of planning to fail, if you like. And I use this term in corporate world quite frequently, and I think it's really aligned in personal life as well. If people never ever sort of ever give any attention to the potential issues that are happening. So as a homeowner, and again, I do this with people, and I sit and I talk and I say, right, as a homeowner or as a parent or as a boss in work or as an employee, what are the potential things that can happen? And there's a tool in manufacturing, in operational excellence, that's called FMEA. And it's failure mode effect analysis for people who don't know. And what that is when we're designing a production facility, what we do is we say, what could go wrong? And then what you do is you go around the whole facility and you go, right, this machine here, what could go wrong? Well, this could go wrong. What would the effect of that be? Well, the effect of that might be catastrophic to minor. Okay, so if it's catastrophic, we need to make sure that we put something in place to make sure that we can deal with it. If it's a minor, we might decide to run at risk. Yeah, we can do that in life as well. I think the reason why people really struggle with things like that are going on in life is maybe because we haven't ever sort of entertained the notion that they could happen. And some things are completely left field. I get it. You know, a COVID happening, you know, a pandemic, a global pandemic, no one can plan for. Yeah. But actually things like job losses, like inflation, right, you know, they're not new. They're cyclical, right? They happen in life. So if we was to look at that, you know, maybe that would change the way we operate today. And for me, it's like, you know, I find a lot of that happening where if I say to people, look, let's do a sort of FMEA on what could possibly happen in any walk of your life. And I always say about writing it down, but it's powerful. It's so powerful. And I think it changes the behavior as well. So I think it helps people navigate their way through because you've planned for every eventuality.
Brilliant. Thank you, Chris. That's all we've got time for. But just a really quick one. So Michelle's asked, can you recommend any book on mindset? So if you can think of something.
Two. Chimp Paradox. Yep. Really good book. And something that I did a whole MBA only reading one book, which was nothing to do with the subject actually, but it was called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If you haven't read that book, that's life changing. And I'll be honest with you, you know, reading that book and reading about them habits changed the way I live in life. So listen, if anybody's got any further questions or anyone wants to reach out, one of the reasons why I'm saying connect with me is like, you know, I'm passionate about this. I'm ready for this. You know, it's a lot of hard work and I need more of you guys to jump on board and help spread this message and help share positivity and help talking about mental fitness instead of mental health completely changes our paradigm. So thank you so much for everybody who's listened, and please, everybody follow the story, get in touch, you know, follow me on the social media platforms. You'll see the things that I'm doing. If you've got any questions, reach out. I'll answer them, you know. And I do, and there's a lot. I do.
Thank you, Chris. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for, but you are coming back on the 19th of November to give us a talk on International Men's Day and
Yeah.
positive masculinity. So if
Yeah.
anyone hasn't signed up for that, please look out for an email once that's live. So please sign up to that. Once again, thank you so much, Chris, for all your passion, your expertise and insights. It's been really an amazing session. And thank you all for attending. Like I said, the recording will be on YouTube very shortly, so look out for that. And like Chris said, follow him on social media and keep the conversation going. Thank you all, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you everyone for listening. I could genuinely speak for 5 hours, so you know it's probably better that you have time limits. Otherwise you'll forget to pick the kids up. Right. Okay, guys. Thanks so much. Keep in touch, and I'll see everyone in a few weeks. But thanks, Wally. Been really good.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. We'll speak soon. Okay.
Take care. Bye.